Today is traditionally called Shrove Tuesday. And so the question is, have you shriven yet? Shrove Tuesday, the day before Ash Wednesday, where we are shriving ourselves of our sin, as we're preparing for this great season of Lent, where we turn away from sin and are faithful to the gospel. In the first reading today, we hear, when the Lord saw how great was man's wickedness on earth, and how no desire that his heart conceived was ever anything but evil. And while we may not have that distinction of having only evil desires, I would say that all of us have desires which are in some way disordered, that they're not ordered properly towards Almighty God. And so this is a day in preparation for a season where we can start looking at our lives and saying, okay, how do I reorder my desires back in the proper order? So those infinite desires within us, which we all have, the infinite for the infinite, gearing it towards the Lord, and gearing only our finite desires for things that are finite. How do we reorder those things in our lives? And I think as we prepare to enter into the season of Lent, if you haven't yet thought about what you're going to do for Lent, how you're going to practice, almsgiving, fasting, and prayer, how you're going to do these things in Lent, it's the time. Today, you better do it today, because tomorrow's when we start. But don't just look and say, well, I always do this or I always do that. Look at what is the end game. Where do you want to be on Easter? In terms of your desires, in terms of where you are. It shouldn't be a season of, well, I want to lose 15 pounds. Well, that's great, but that's not the purpose of Lent. But rather, how do I get closer to Jesus? And then order the things that we do in Lent towards that. In our fasting, in our almsgiving, in our prayer. So that if we hold fast to these practices, we'll actually see at Easter that we're closer to God than we were when we started, that our disordered desires are on the way, not really there necessarily all the way, but on the way to being more ordered towards the heart of God.